According to the Sumerians, kingship resumed at Kish after the flood. 23 kings ruled there until Kish was smitten with weapons. Its kingship to Unug was carried. Unug in Sumerian translates to Enoch in Hebrew. The Sumerians named in the post-flood period the city Cain built in the pre-flood period, named for his son. The Sethites, after the destruction of Eridu, relocated next door to their Canaanite cousins within a safer environment than Eridu proved to be.
The Sumerian king list uses the word Kulab, which translates loosely as twin cities. The city next door to Enoch was called Erech in Hebrew. That was part of Nimrod's kingdom in Genesis 10, 9 through 10, also known in Sumerian as Uruk.
When Stephen Langdon translated the Sumerian king list into English in 1923, he encountered the Sumerian word Unug as the second city reconstructed after the flood following Kish. Had he been faithful to the text, he would have translated it Enoch. Instead, what we read in English in Langdon's translation is Erech, the Sumerian Uruk. Why did he do that? Surely he would have been asked if this was the same city Cain built. How would you have answered that? Did Langdon believe that the city of Enoch couldn't have survived the flood? Did he wish to avoid almost certain controversy? After all, how could a respected curator of archaeology and anthropology at the University of Pennsylvania go about lending his endorsement to Bible trivia? Or perhaps he recognized that Enoch and Erech were either at the same place or they were the same place, and what difference would it make? Whatever his motives might have been will forever be unknown.
Here is Eridu on the map that we have shown in previous episodes that was smitten with weapons, but reestablished by the Sumerians as only Sumerian-style pottery is found towards the surface.
Enoch was located on the north side of the Euphrates River, along the same canal that provided water for both cities. By pooling their resources and forces, the Canaanites and Sethites were able to remain secure behind fortress city walls made of mud brick. According to the Sumerian king list, the combined city of Enoch Erech was never under attack until after the flood, and by then the population had changed.
The modern city of Walker has replaced ancient Enoch, although a precinct in the city is still called Iana, a name changed only slightly from its origin. A deep sounding was made in the Iana precinct in 1931 through 32. The pottery was identified as Ubaid from level 18 up to level 14. It was transitioned to the Uruk or Sumerian period by level 10, a post-flood period when the Sumerians began to occupy cities that were once either Ubaidan or Akkadian. From archaeologist Leonard Woolley's analysis, the pottery from the earliest period he found at that he called Al-Ubaid I was unrepresented at Walker, signifying that both and Eridu had been established at earlier dates.
The great ziggurat built in Erech to honor the goddess Inanna, who was famous in that city, has slowly dissolved over the centuries into a disheveled pile of dirt and mud bricks. Today, the modern Warka stands where the children of Cain and Seth once played in dusty streets and dwelt in the walled twin cities of Enoch and Erech that grew together to become Nimrod's Erech, the Sumerian Uruk. In general, liberal theologians have not embraced the idea that Genesis and the opening chapters should be treated as historical narrative. T.L. Thompson wrote, "Not only has archaeology not proven a single event of the patriarchal traditions to be historical, it has not shown any of the traditions to be likely. Patriarchal stories are fiction that inform us about Israel's post-exilic national identity," wrote Giovanni Garbini. W.M.L. DeWitt asserted that the Old Testament was produced by authors intent on creating myth rather than recounting history. Julius Wellhausen argued that the Genesis narratives cannot be used for historical purposes at all. In his textbook on Genesis, Walter Brueggemann refers to Genesis as a process of storytelling. He introduces the early chapters merely as prehistory. In these texts, there is almost no historical particularity, he explains. Other than the reference to specific peoples in chapters 10 and 11, there is no concrete identification to historical persons, groups, movements, or institutions. Old Testament Survey is a textbook used in seminary schools today. It says, since the Pentateuch, that's the first 5 books of the Bible, is regarded as originating many centuries later than the Mosaic period, it is sometimes thought to preserve little genuine historical information, quote unquote. Unfortunately, Genesis has been assigned to a category they call prehistory or proto-history. In other words, something other than history. It was Carl Sagan who said, "The absence of evidence is not the evidence of absence." Just because extra-biblical evidence was not known at the time doesn't mean none exists. Maybe they didn't think anybody would take the time to look or know where to look, or upon looking, actually find corroborating evidence that Genesis does indeed have historical integrity. We can only hope their positions will soften over time and with the circulation of the kinds of evidence such as we have produced here. Please feel free to forward these links to family and friends. Thank you, Ken, for co-hosting with me, and thank you for watching.